Hey guys, welcome to the Disrupted Podcast where we analyze and discuss technologies that's changing the world as we know it. I'm your host, Chris Ebe, and with me, my co-host, Robert Smith. How's it going, Robert?
Hey, you doing all right? How are you?
I'm good. So today we're going to talk about Palantir. Okay, this is a very exciting company and a company I actually own myself. I'm really excited about this company. So to start off from the top, hey Robert, what is Palantir? What would you say about it?
Yeah, so simple forms, Palantir is a data analytics company.
Correct.
They work with the government and they work with private parties or public companies. And they interpret the data that's sent to them and they use that data to help their clients make decisions. Simple as that. We'll get into a bit more details, but I like the history of Palantir, or at least where the CEO has come from.
Mhm.
Do you know about where Palantir or how the CEOs got, I guess, transitioned from their old job, or let me see, what am I trying to say here? Where did the CEOs start? Right?
Mm.
Like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
what companies did these CEOs come from?
Start with.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm really interested in.
yeah, that is a really interesting section. We're gonna get to that in a moment. But just to add on to what you said about what Palantir actually is, so I'm a big fan of like mythical movies and stuff,
Yeah.
like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and actually the name Palantir came from Lord of the Rings. Most people don't know this. Most people don't talk about it. So so the world in Lord of the Rings is called Mordor. So in the old world of Mordor, there were these stones that were created. Okay, these stones were actually crystal balls, but in the world of Lord of the Rings in Mordor, the name crystal ball doesn't exist. So they call the stones, these crystal round stones, Palantirs. And what they did is they gave you the ability to see across space and across time. So people who wielded the Palantir, they can see into the future through the crystal ball, and they could also see across distances. So you're there right now. It's like a Zoom call. You're there right now. I'm here with the Palantir stone. We can see, and we could also communicate through those Palantir stones. So I thought it was so cool that that's where the name comes from. However, I did some research into it. They don't actually pay Lord of the Rings royalties for the name, for using the name.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I know. Because I was curious. I was like, what? They took the name from Tolkien, the guy who wrote the story, Lord of the Rings, but yeah, they don't pay him royalties. Why? So I realized you can copyright content, but you can't copyright a name, a word. However, you can trademark a word. But however, the name Palantir wasn't trademarked. But anyways, I just thought it was an interesting background. And I feel like that's actually the best example or explanation of what the company actually does with the stones, right? The
Yeah, I
stones,
think that's really accurate.
exactly.
They got a
Yeah.
good
So
point.
yeah, exactly. So they literally picked a really good name to explain what they actually do. Seeing across space, across time, communicating across space and across time. So I think that's the best expression. But yeah, to go on to where you were leading about the history of Palantir. So go ahead and talk
Well,
to us about how they kind of started.
yeah, you kind of sparked my interest in that. I've never seen The Lord of the Rings or read the books. I know it's blasphemy, right? But I'm curious, what's the Palantir of the stones that they use to kind of get an idea on what's going on with the future?
Correct.
What was the eye?
The eye is this. It's called Saruman. Oh, it's called Sauron. Saruman is the Dark Lord. The Eye was pretty much was trying to take over the world. That's what you can say. It's just the bad guy, the big bad.
No,
Uh,
okay, so that was the big bad guy.
that was the big bad. Yeah, correct.
All right, interesting. Yeah, I never even considered to read or watch the movie after finding out that Palantir was the name of the stones that they used to look into the future, or their crystal ball, so to speak.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I like that. As far as the history of the company, I know
Mhm.
one CEO came from a company called PayPal. It's is that Peter
Yep.
Thiel? Did
Yep.
Alex Karp? Did he come from PayPal as well?
Yep. They all did.
They all did.
Steve Cohen, Alex Karp, and Peter Thiel. I
Nice.
believe they were all PayPal mafia guys with Elon Musk. Yeah.
Yeah. And the good thing about this PayPal mafia is it's like, who cares that they all came from one company like that? What does that mean? It's not about the fact that they came from this one company. It's how they started this company, and the way they were able to see into the future, so to speak, and say, hey, we're running into a problem. And
Yep.
before there was PayPal, I never used anything other than PayPal when I first started. But
Same here, same
yeah.
here.
So there was eBay, right?
Hmm.
And eBay, you would like write checks to sellers, or you would find some way to do a transaction over the internet, and it was very slow. And it was also kind of like murky waters because you would send over money hoping that the seller would send it to you.
Yep.
And the good thing about those guys is, and again, you can jump in, correct me if I'm wrong here, but what they did was they saw, hey, there's an opportunity for us to make the user experience better. And the big thing on that is when you want to start a business, you figure out what problem exists and how you can solve that problem.
Correct.
And so I feel that they got together and they decided, okay, the problem exists between eBay and the seller and the buyers. There's no real middleman. So they decided to create this middle guy, such as PayPal, where instead of sending your funds directly to the seller, you send it to a third party, and then they would distribute the funds, and you would verify. They would verify the transactions, and once those transactions are verified, the shipment can go through. It just made a step for buying and selling that much easier.
Correct.
And I'm sure you have a lot of other ideas on where they wanted to go with PayPal. Are you familiar with Elon Musk's plan of what he wanted to do with PayPal?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, it's actually a really good story. I like it. He was trying to make PayPal the biggest bank in the world.
Right.
Okay. But I guess some of the other guys didn't really agree with his vision. So he actually got kicked off as the CEO, and Peter Thiel replaced him. So I don't know. The media tried to make it like there was some kind of feud between him and Peter Thiel, but I really don't think there was. But I liked how you walked us through the history. Again, the history of Palantir, you can tell it without eBay and PayPal, obviously, because eBay bought PayPal. Okay, eBay bought what became PayPal from Elon Musk. Yeah. So back in 2003, I believe PayPal was losing about $3 billion in fraud. Okay, that was when the PayPal Mafia guys decided that Alex Karp, Steve Cohen, and Peter Thiel were gonna go off and start Palantir just to figure out to be able to predict some of these fraudulent transactions and avoid it. So they started obviously with AI. So with AI, they were actually able to catch these fraudulent transactions, and they were able to save PayPal and eBay from losing $3 billion. And back in 2003, that was a lot of money. I know now it sounds like chicken change, right? Because the other day, a few days ago, Alex Karp his earnings for 2020 came out, and he was paid $1.1 billion in 2020. Okay. Yeah. But back in 2003, that was a lot of money. Okay. $3 billion was a lot of money. So that was kind of how Palantir was created, to kind of predict fraud and catch it before it happens. So yeah, like I said, with the explanation of the Lord of the Rings, that is, in my opinion, the best explanation of what the company actually does.
Absolutely. And again, there's another problem that they came across, and they wanted to figure out how to solve it. And to solve that problem, it turned out that they needed to create another company.
Correct.
And one thing that I'd like about this company is so when you create a complex item, right? Usually the users need to understand the item from ins and out, right? If you don't understand how the product works, you can't use it.
Correct.
Well, with PayPal, their goal was to have the everyday user, or not the everyday user, but the everyday employee, be able to use the product and be productive with it, even though it operates in a way. Yeah.
I think you meant with Palantir, not PayPal.
No, PayPal and Palantir. So
that was okay. I got you. Okay.
So instead of having these software engineers run the company, right, or do the transaction verifications, they had the software engineers create the program, and then they were able to set it up in a way that it's easy for the workers to understand how to use it.
Oh, okay, I got you.
And so they took that from PayPal and they carried it over to Palantir.
Correct.
And that's one of the things that I really like. And he talks about how guys over in Silicon Valley, they would go and create this product and kind of hoard it to themselves. Like, what do you say? These robots that flip burgers or whatnot. It gets rid of work for the guys in the kitchen. But what he wants to do is say, nope, I want to enable everyone to be able to use our software. And I think that's really important because it keeps jobs here instead of sending them overseas and everything.
I like that. That's a really, really, really good point. Because even Alex Karp says it himself. Palantir is created to make the average guy perform as good as a PhD in data science or AI or analytics. So that is kind of their mission. Okay, they want to make these companies, these employees and these companies be significantly more efficient with Palantir software than they will be otherwise. So for Palantir is just getting contracts on contracts on contracts from government to private agencies. I know Palantir is divided into Foundry, which is the B2B company, business to business, and Gotham, which is the business to government. I call it B2G. So those are the two main parts. I know I thought I heard somewhere there was a third part, which is business to consumer. They want to market a product directly to consumer. I don't know how true that is. That might just be a rumor, but
I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay. So maybe it was just a rumor. But yeah, I just think it's cool. Palantir is just like you say, it's kind of difficult to understand the company, but I think they fit into our future, the future of the world. But leading on to that, like, how do you see them fitting into this future? I think they do, but how do you see them? Like, as far as now, a few companies are getting into software as a service. What do you think about this section, the future of this section?
Yeah. So before we get into that, I think it's best that we understand what those two platforms are that you described. This is doing my research on this one. It's tough. It's almost like dropping someone off in an island or a deserted island and say, all right, send me an email when you're ready for me to come and get you. It's like, hold on. It's really complicated. And it scares a lot of people away from investing or even looking into the company. But one thing you want to understand is the future is going to be data driven, right? Everything that happens, I guess if you're looking 10 years out, the decisions that we make, that companies make, that governments make will heavily lean on data analytics. Okay, so now let's break into this company. You have Gotham, right? So Gotham, and again, it gets really choppy here, but jump in where you feel the need to jump in. But what Gotham does is they pull unstructured data, right? From, let's say, from the government. If they're working with the government on a project, they'll pull data from transactions, CCTVs, different avenues to collect that data. And what they'll do is they'll kind of make a chart where any government employee can monitor or track transactions or movements of certain things over time. Does that explain it?
Yeah. Yep. I like that. So keep going.
Okay. There was a guy who gave a good example, like when you watch your crime shows and you see the crime map, and you have like the boss here, and then you have all of these arrows or these pins with lines pointing towards, okay, here's a connection, there's another connection here, and you kind of see who's the center of everything. Well, Palantir's Gotham works in that manner. So say, for example, if you want to track a terrorist or a terrorist-like activity, you can use Gotham to follow, I guess you would say, airport flights, cell phone calls, credit card transactions, and you can do that and develop points of interest, and you can collect their accomplices or the people that they're working with. And the good thing about this is it's not just a one-sided where I'm just watching everything that you do, but everything the government employee does, that is also tracked. So there's like an accountability thing. So there's never going to be, well, at least I don't want to say never, but there's less of a chance for a rogue employee to say, oh, I wonder what Chris is doing today. Let me go ahead and check into his systems. And if they do, that information is going to get tracked and it's going to get relayed to central authority or whoever runs that Gotham app.
I get you.
And that's Gotham. Did you want to?
Man, I don't think I can do a better job than that. So we'll just leave it there. That was very good. That was very good. I like how you explained how they use AI and data analytics to kind of simplify
things.
Yeah. But yeah, what about Foundry? Do you kind of have an idea about Foundry?
So Foundry is more the business to business, like you said. And what they do is now instead of the government providing data, it's
Mm,
individual companies providing data. So a company will reach out to Palantir and say, hey, we have this issue such as, okay, we'll use this one for an example. I run a mine and I have these machines that need to run 24/7. And if this machine goes down, I'm losing hundreds of thousands of dollars an hour. If we send you our data, would you be able to find components that are failing before
mm.
they fail?
So pretty
And
much
so,
finding fault points of faults along a
correct,
system. Okay, yeah, nice. Keep going.
correct. So what Palantir will do is they will collect all of the data from this company, right? And they'll collect data of a unit that's operating perfectly fine. Say, hey, this is what it should look like. This is our benchmark. And they'll just collect hours upon hours of data of good running engines or
Mm,
good running components. Um, then they'll collect hours and hours of components that have failed, but they collect all the data up until that failure point. And so they
mm,
can use their analytic software to determine, hey, at this time, your readings started to decline for these pressures or this value, right? And so we can say, all right, because your readings declined at this rate, we have a good idea on when your component is going to fail. And
mm,
so they can go in and say, all right, once these readings start to drop, we set a threshold or you set the threshold, we'll suggest that you go and replace that individual part. And so that's how Foundry would work. And
mm,
another good thing about it is it's as simple as them developing the software packet and all of the coding, all the difficult things are done in the software. And so the end user, the customer, or the employee can just jump in and kind of either monitor it or they can go in and search, okay, which component is starting to fail, and it'll give back results of
mm,
where components are or their lifespan, so to speak.
mm, mm. That
That that's what I've got from Foundry. It's really difficult. I'm sure it's way more in depth than that, but this is
mhm.
just surface level.
High level, high level. Yeah, yeah. Palantir is it's a beast. It's a difficult company to understand, but I'm pretty sure we tried at least to do a decent job of bringing it down, so most people can kind of understand and get excited about this company, kind of like we are when we discuss Palantir. But yeah, that's it for the video, guys. I hope it was educative. I hope it's at least shed some light on Palantir, even though it's kind of a dark, uh, a dark, foggy subject. But yeah, I hope it
Yeah.
was helpful, and we'll see you guys on the next one.